Book of Fragapatti, Chapter 23. Fragapatti had previously visited Hapacha, but told no one who he was, save that he was god of Lunitsi in Etheria. Consequently, Hapacha, now knowing that Fragapatti was coming, mistrusted not that it was the same person, but expected to see one coming in great pomp and glory. For he had heard of the wonders Fragapatti had already accomplished in the eastern heavens, particularly the breaking up of the hells of Aowasu and the deliverance of the tortured inmates. 2. Thus came Fragapatti to Ipsiogi in his avalanza, displaying neither lights nor curtains, coming with the receiving host within his vessel, anchoring near the throne of Hapacha. 3. Presently, Fragapatti came down out of the ship, Yatonte and Hoab with him, also the marshals, who were on the left, the receiving host being on the right. Hapacha's esenars struck up, Jehovah's name, O ye lords and gods. And the host of the avalanza joined in singing, and with trumpets and harps and triangles, knowing the symbols of their kingdom, and great was the glory of their music. 4. When Fragapatti approached the throne, the music ceased. Hapacha said, Who cometh here? And he made the ancient sign of Jehovah's name. Fragapatti said, A faithist in Jehovah, and he gave the countersign. Whereupon Hapacha said, In his name, welcome, brother, and welcome thy host also. May his love and wisdom be manifested in me and my people during your sojourn with us. 5. Fragapatti said, Jehovah is all-wise. He fashioneth some men as sons, and out of their souls the light extendeth into the far-off spheres. Coursing these vast fields at certain times and season, he sendeth swift messengers from his most exalted heavens. And these messengers, passing through both light and darkness, with their great wisdom, scan the distant kingdoms where mortals and angels dwell, and quickly catch from the guardian's host and from the scenes around the brightest, best stars, and carry the record to the reigning gods above. And when these gods descend to the regions and place of these gems, they go visit them. 6. Even so, O Hapacha, standeth thy record in the higher heavens. And when the Father called me to visit the red star and her heavens, I looked over Jehovah's messengers' reports, where was set thy name, radiant with love and fire. So to thee I made haste and came, unknown, because as yet unproved in these heavens, and thy much worth, and the amity of thy host won my love. I told thee thou should hear from me soon, and so thou hast. Behold, Fragapatti is before thee. 7. Hapacha said, Blessed, O Jehovah, come thou, O Fragapatti, and honor my throne, in the name of the Father, and come thou also, O Yatonte, and thou, O Hoab. And they went up and sat on the throne, and Fragapatti sat in the midst. 8. Again, the esenars sang and played, and during the singing, the light of the upper kingdoms began to envelop the throne. Then spake Fragapatti, explaining, 9. Hear me, O all ye people, and be ye attentive to my words. 10. Because ye have been faithful from the first, ye are become the light of the earth and of this heaven. And inasmuch as ye have maintained your altar in times of sacrifice, worship, there have been maintained in the upper heavens altars and sacrifices in conjunction with you. 11. Whereby ye have been blessed in hearing the voice in all the darkness through which the earth and her heavens have passed. 12. As the Father hath given voice betwixt mother and child, though they be distant from each other, so, in like manner, to Jehovah's kingdoms, which are in sympathy in righteousness and love. 13. As ye behold the light gathering about this throne, think not that I bring the light, nor that it is sent to me in person. There is accord betwixt me and my Etherian kingdoms, and I am one end thereof. The other end is the throne in Etheria. When I sit in the midst of this throne, behold, it is also illuminated by the higher heavens. 14. Think not that my heavens are the highest of all, for such, the all highest, can never be attained. Nevertheless, my heavens are connected as with the cord to them above me, and they to others still above, and so on forever upward. The All-Highest conceived of is called Jehovah, and no matter how long it descendeth, still the voice is his voice. 15. That ye may hear Jehovah's voice, I will now set my son above the throne. 16. Fragapatti ceased, and a light most brilliant in the figure of the sun settled above his head back of the throne. Many could not look upon it because of its brightness. Presently Jehovah spake out of the light, saying, 17. Rejoice, O Hapacha, in the name of thy Creator. Sing thy songs of delight, and let thy people hold up their heads. Behold, I have watched over thee and thy host. In my promises have ye fulfilled the dawn of my light. 18. 3,000 years are as one day in my sight. Yesterday I said, sit ye here, stand ye there, for tomorrow I come again. And this was my commandment for thousands and tens of thousands of years. 19. But others remembered me not. In the night they went down, as a child that falleth asleep. And when I came on the morrow, behold, they had not awakened. But I roused them up, and showed them my great light. 20. Again I said to them, 3,000 years are as one day in my sight. Sit ye here, stand ye there, and remember me. Tomorrow I come again. But lo, they went down in sleep. They remembered me not, their Creator. 21. But thou, O Hapacha, hast maintained the watch all night long. Thou art the first of gods who hath kept this kingdom whole from dawn to dawn. Thou art the first of gods who hath kept my kingdom safe in the lower heavens till the morrow came. 22. Now have I come to thee to deliver thee and thy kingdom to Haraiti, whither thou shalt tarry till the close of dawn, when my sons and daughters shall bear thee upward to my emancipated worlds, and thy host shall go with thee. 23. The voice ceased. Then spake Fragapatti, saying, For 3 days will I tarry here. 2 days shalt thou have of recreation. But on the 3rd day thou shalt appoint thy successor, and I will then again speak before thee and thy people. 24. Hapacha then proclaimed 2 days of recreation, and the host mingled freely together, those of the Avalansa coming out and rejoicing with the Ipsiogians, and great was the glory of those 2 days. Chapter 14. Hoab rejoiced not, and he alone of all the people assembled was burdened in soul. He said, Jehovah, thou hast rebuked me, and I am cast down. Thou hast shown me thy son Hapacha, one of thy gods, in the lowest heavens. And Hapacha, thy son, hath maintained his kingdom unto thee till this dawn of light hath come. 2. Yet thou gavest into my keeping a kingdom far higher than this, even Zeredho, and I went down, as a child that falleth asleep. My kingdom forgot thee. My people ceased to sing songs unto thy name. We buried ourselves in darkness. 3. And thou hast chosen me to be the next succeeding God of earth and her heavens. How shall I fulfill thy commandments? How shall I know the way to choose gods and lords under me who will be steadfast and zealous? 4. As he thus communed with Jehovah, Fragapatti said unto him, Through faith are all things accomplished. Without faith, all things are uncertain. He who saith, I know Jehovah liveth and reigneth, had said wisely. But he who saith, I go forth in thee, O Jehovah, for I know thou wilt accomplish, hath said much more. For his words maintain the power of the Father in him. 5. When the morning of the 3rd day had come, Hapacha called the hosts from recreation to labor, and the Esanars chanted a hymn of rejoicing. And after that, Hapacha said, 6. To thee, O Jehovah, are all things committed, even as from thee they came forth. The voice is ever upon all men, but they hear thee not. Thine eye is observant of all men, but they believe it not. To teach men these simple things is to make gods of them, to open up their understanding, to find thee, to know thee, and to realize thy ever presence, to become one with thee. This is the labor with thy gods, and thy lords, and thy holy angels. 7. In thy name have I raised up one who is to succeed me in this, thy kingdom. From thy light shall thy Orion chief weave a crown for him. With mine own hands will I crown him unto thee and thy kingdom. 8. The marshals now brought forward Penodo of Caracas, highly learned in discipline, and he stood before the throne of God. Thereupon Fragapatti rose up, saying, 9. Without a keynote, a number of instruments cannot be attuned to harmony. Without a faith in an all-highest person, neither angels nor mortals can live in harmony. 10. Individuals may be strong, but many in concerted actions comprise the Father's kingdom. 11. Neither angels nor mortals can assimilate of themselves, but all can assimilate with the Father, everyone perfecting himself differently. Such persons are then assimilated to one another. 12. Whoever serveth his own conception of the All-Highest, making himself a servant thereto, is on the right road, and in the plane of the universe, will drift into an association adapted to himself. 13. Many such, becoming a unit, are powerful over the elements surrounding them. Disbelief in an all-highest person is caused by weakness of spirit, resulting from disease or from prenatal sin, or by laudation of one's own self. Such person cannot harmonize, because each one is his own self-esteemed all-highest. They are without power, without unison, and without sacrifice, accomplishing little good in heaven or on earth. 14. Think not that darkness belongeth only to the earth and the lowest heavens. There are those who rise to the second resurrection, and then fall into unbelief, and then fall to the first resurrection, and afterward become wandering spirits. And some of them even fall into hell, which is belief in evil and destruction being good. And yet others become drujas, engrossed in the affairs of mortals, and in lust, teaching reincarnation, and they finally become fetals and vampires on mortals. 15. Whoever hath attained to the height of his own ideal is on the precipice of hell. But he who, finding the God of his forefathers too small for himself, and so inventeth one much higher, is a great benefactor. A fool can ridicule the ancient person. His delight is to pull down. But a wise man furnisheth a great person. To pull down the all person is to pull down his people. 16. To try to make a non-appreciable person out of Jehovah is to make oneself the opposite of a creator. To learn to create, to invent, to cast one's spirit forth with power to congregate and make, is to go on the right road. 17. To learn to pull down, to scatter, to annul, to disintegrate, to set things apart from one another, to find evil instead of good, to find folly instead of wisdom, to expose the ignorance of others instead of finding wisdom in them. Even all these follow after the first inception of disbelief in the all person. 18. And since from disintegration of the compact betwixt the Creator and his children, the cord of communication is cut off with the exalted kingdoms in Etheria, they have indeed double grounds for disbelief, nor can they comprehend how others can be believers in an all higher person, much less have faith in him. 19. And the same rule applieth to communities and to kingdoms as to individuals, in regard to the fall consequent in unbelief in an all person. For a community becometh one person, a kingdom in Etheria becometh one person, a kingdom in the lower heavens becometh one person, a kingdom on earth becometh one person, each and every kingdom being a single figurehead, and as many of these kingdoms as are united become one person also, being a single figurehead of many parts, which is the perfection of each and every individual. 20. Hence, as a single individual can cut himself off from the Father, so can a community or a kingdom, and so go down to destruction. 21. The strongest, best man in the community, he is who laboreth most to perfect the unit, that is, the person of the community, The strongest man in the kingdom is he who laboreth most to perfect the person of the kingdom. The strongest man in heaven is he who laboreth most to perfect the all person of heaven. 22. The weakest of men is the opposite of these. He laboreth to show there is no all person in anything. Verily, he is already falling away from the Father. Yea, he accuseth himself, for he saith, I neither see nor hear in all person, nor believe I in one. 23. It is a wise man who, finding he is going to disbelieve too much, correcteth himself. And he is not less wise who, finding he believeth too much, and hence investigateth not at all, correcteth himself. 24. It was said of old, first testimony, second, belief, third, faith, and fourth, works. But I declare unto you that with the expanse of knowledge, testimony must be strengthened. For in the olden times, angels and men could be commanded to believe, and they believed. 25. Herein have many of the lords and the gods of the lower heavens erred. For they furnished not to those beneath them the necessary testimony comporting with the advanced knowledge in heaven or on earth. A god shall be swift in devising food for meditation, for angels as well as mortals, without an advanced teacher, are as well off with none at all. 26. It was said of old that a god taught the people on one of the stars to believe Jehovah lived in a straw, and they rose in wisdom, and harmony, and unity. Then afterward, another god came and taught them there was no Jehovah, because, forsooth, he could not live in a straw, and the people fell into disbelief and in inharmony and disunion. Which then of these was the better God? 27. Yet I declare unto you, they were both necessary. For without a habitation and a figure, the Great Spirit cannot be taught to either angels or mortals in the first place. The labor of the gods is to lead the people upward, step by step, until they learn to be gods and goddesses themselves. 28. On this earth, mortals were taught through stone and wooden idols, and afterward by engraved images. In some of the mixed tribes, it will be necessary to teach them incarnated Jehovah in mortal form, and by sympathy for his sufferings, teach them how to follow his spirit up to heaven. But all these subterfuges shall be set aside in the Cosman era. 29. This heaven, more than any other heaven of the earth, will be regarded by the Etherian kingdoms. Beneath you, even on this part of the earth, will mortals first espouse the Father's kingdom. 30. Of all things, let your labor be first of all to sow the seed of disbelief in an all person, the Great Spirit. As ye now sow and build Jehovah's kingdom in your heaven, so in the coming of the Cosman era will the same teaching take root in the souls of mortals. 31. Nor shall ye under any circumstances permit gods or lords or saviors to be established as worshipful beings, either in these heavens or on this part of the earth. For this land is dedicated by Jehovah for the overthrow of all idols of God and Lord and Savior, and of everything that is worshipped, save Jehovah, the Great Spirit. Neither shall any of these idols be established with effect in these heavens or on this land, but be ye most circumspect to establish Jehovah, the light of light, the all-person, in the souls of angels and mortals. 32. Fragapatti ceased, but signaled for Hypatia to ordain Penodo, god of Ipsioge. Hypatia rose up, saying, Penodo, son of Jehovah, thou hast been chosen to be god of Ipsioge for 600 years, and even after, if Jehovah so will. Thou hast passed the examination and standest above all others. 33. Thou hast been favored in much traveling in heaven, and, for thy benefit, many swift messengers from the emancipated worlds have explained to thee the dominions of the great chiefs. 34. He, through whose fields this world is now traveling, hath stood up before thee. He hath spoken to thee and thy people. Heed thou his words, and thou shalt be one with the kingdoms in wisdom and power. 35. By proxy, I have visited the Etherian worlds. Thou hast not. By being one with this chief, thou wilt inure to all light, and soon Thou shalt visit his places by proxy also. 36. And at the end of 600 years, thou and thy harvest will be called for by the Etherian host. Be thou ready for them. And erst thou depart, thou shalt raise up one sufficient to take thy place, and thou shalt bestow him. 37. Penodo said, Thy will and Jehovah's be done. That which is given me to do, will I do with all my wisdom and strength. So help me, O Jehovah. 38. Hapata said, By virtue of thy wisdom, power, and love, O Jehovah, vested in me, do I this, thy son, ordain God of Ipsiogi for the period of 600 years. Be thou with him, O Jehovah, and may he and his works glorify thee forever. Amen. 39. Penodo said, Which I accept in covenant with thee, O Jehovah, for thy glory forever. Amen. 40. The Essenars now sang, Thou light in person approved and sung on high, Jehovah, our God Apacha, Jehovah, thou hast called him. Welcome, Penodo, thou alone, Jehovah, remainest forever. Glory, glory be to thee, O thou Creator. 41. The light gathered brilliantly over Fragapatti's head, and when the music ceased, the voice of Jehovah spake out of the light, saying, 42. In the first days I blew my breath upon the lands of the earth, and man became a living soul. Then, in the second time, I moved my hand upon the earth, and man went forth in power. 43. Thus near hath my voice approached the earth. Be ye steadfast in my commandments. The time shall surely come, and in the third season, when my voice shall be heard by mortals. 44. The voice ceased, and then Fragapatti took the light in his hands, as one would take fine flax, and he turned it about thrice, and lo, a crown was woven, most brilliant, but of a reddish hue. He said, 45. Crown of thy crown, O Jehovah, have I woven for thy son, God of Ipsiogi. And he handed it to Apacha, who said, And in thy name, O Father, I crown him, second God of Ipsiogi, 600 years. Be thou with him, O Father. Amen. Chapter 25. It being now the end of the fourth day, Fragapatti commanded the host to embark in the Avalanza, and the marshals conducted them, taking, first, the sons and daughters of Ipsiogi, being 60 million. Next, the Zeridhoans, 10 million, and then Fragapatti's attendants, being mostly Etherians, 5 million. 2. When those were abroad, Fragapatti and Hoab and Yatante and Apacha rose up, and after making the sign of the setting sun, went down and sat at the foot of the throne. 3. God, that was Penodo, went down and took Fragapatti's hand, saying, Arise, O chief, the Father calleth. Fragapatti rose up and stood aside. Next, God raised Yatante, and he stood aside, and then he raised Hoab, and he stood aside. And now came the greatest trial of all. He took Apacha's hand, saying, Arise, O God, great Jehovah calleth thee. Go thy way and his. 4. But they both burst into tears, and fell into each other's arms. Apacha said, O Father. Penodo said, His will be done. And now the light gathered brilliantly over the scene. Fragapatti moved forward, then Yatante, then Hoab, and next Apacha. 5. Penodo resumed the throne. The Essenars chanted, and the firelights of the higher heavens descended over all the place. Like a sweet dream, the scene closed. Fragapatti and his host were gone. 6. Like a bee that is laden with honey, flying from a field of flowers to its home, so returned Fragapatti with his avalanza laden to Haraiti, swiftly through the vaults of heaven, a shooting star in Jehovah's hand. 7. Athrava, god of Haraiti and assistant to Fragapatti, knew that the avalanza was coming, and that Hapacha and his hosts were aboard, and he determined to provide a glorious reception. 8. So, for the space of 1,000 miles, he caused pillars of fire to be erected in 2 rows, so that the avalanza should pass between them. And near the pillars, he stationed trumpeters and harpers 1 million, divided into 100 groups. And they were so arranged that when the avalanza passed them, they could come aboard. 9. Now during the absence of Fragapatti, Many of the spirits who had been rescued from torture and madness in the hells of Aoasu had been restored to consciousness, more than 150 million of them. 10. Of these, Athrava said, "Clothe ye them in most gaudy apparel, and let them be the bearers of perfumes and flowers and torches as presents for the Ihans host of Hapacha. And the lights shall be lowered at the place of the landing, to make it acceptable to those newly raised who are aboard." 11. Athrava said, "As for Mauru, within the walls of light it shall be rated 7. But when Fragapatti hath ascended the throne, it shall be raised to 9. And in those days, 9 in Haraiti was 50% of the capacity of endurance in the plateau." 12. Jehovah had said, "If they raise a light, it will be more acceptable to my Etherian host, for they have dwelt a long time near the earth, and are thirsting for Etherian light. But yet consider ye, here are thousands of millions of atmospherians who cannot endure the Etherian light, but delight in a lower percent. See to it, then, that the walls of light protect my host in the dark on one side, but raise ye the grade to 9 within." 13. Athrava said, "There shall be flights of stairs leading over the walls of Mauru, and they shall be white and illumined on that day, which will be sufficient for dividing the people according to the light suited to them. The Ihans with the Pacha will go over the walls, for they entered their corporeal cities in the same way. Besides, they are capable of enduring the light. But the Ihans with the Pacha will desire to remain without. For them prepare ye a place of delight and rest." 14. But in regard to the Etherians, Athrava gave no orders, for they were capable of perceiving all necessary things, and without instruction.